Have you ever stopped to ask yourself what your constant availability is truly costing you? Have you considered the immense silent tax levied upon your energy, your peace, and your very essence every time you say yes when your soul is screaming no? Think about the endless stream of requests, the expectations you feel compelled to meet, and the emotional labor you perform without a second thought. There is a profound and unsettling truth hidden within this pattern of perpetual accessibility, a truth that suggests the person who is always there for everyone else is often nowhere to be found for herself. This journey isn't about learning a new trick or a simple life hack. It is a fundamental shift in your reality, a reclaiming of your sovereign power that begins with a single terrifyingly beautiful act. You stop being so readily available. Welcome back to Feminine Queen, the sanctuary for women who are architects of their own lives. Here, we understand that true feminine power is not loud, aggressive, or demanding of external validation. It is a quiet, unshakable confidence, a regal grace that emanates from a rich and well-guarded inner world. The journey we are embarking on today is central to this philosophy. It's about understanding that your presence is a gift, not a given, and that by consciously choosing when and where to bestow that gift, you fundamentally alter the dynamics of your entire life. You begin to operate from a place of immense strength, moving from being a pawn in other people's games to the undisputed ruler of your own kingdom. This is the essence of what it means to be a feminine queen. In this exploration, we will delve deep into the ancient wisdom of Stoicism and the profound insights of psychology from figures like Carl Jung, not as abstract theories, but as practical tools for your royal arsenal. These philosophies provide the blueprint for building an unshakable inner fortress, for mastering your emotional responses, and for cultivating a life of virtue and unyielding self-respect. You will discover how withdrawing your energy isn't an act of selfishness, but an act of supreme self-preservation and power. Prepare to see the world and your place in it through a new lens, because when you stop being available, you don't just change your schedule, my ladies, you change everything. You begin the sacred process of becoming the woman you were always meant to be. 1. Sovereign silence. This is the first and perhaps most potent weapon in your reclaimed arsenal, my queens. It is far more than the mere absence of sound. It is a strategic and deliberate choice forged in the fires of self-mastery. Consider the moments when chaos erupts around you, a passive-aggressive comment, an unfair demand, an attempt to provoke you into a messy emotional reaction. The world expects you to respond, to defend, to explain. Your conditioning screams for you to engage, but the feminine queen understands a principle taught by the Stoics. True power lies not in the reaction, but in the sacred space you create between the stimulus and your response. Your sovereign silence is the living embodiment of that space. As the great thinker Carl Jung might suggest, by refusing to react, you are consciously withdrawing the screen upon which others project their own insecurities and manipulations. This silence becomes a vacuum where their tactics suffocate and die. It is not an act of passivity. It is an unassailable fortress of presence, a throne of quiet observation, from which you watch the storm, utterly unshaken, revealing the profound instability of those who desperately tried to control your inner weather. 2. Sacred withdrawal. This principle takes your sovereign silence and extends it into a physical and energetic reality. This is not about running away or hiding from your problems. It is a conscious royal decree of enough. It is a deliberate uncoupling from the people, environments, and dynamics that systematically drain your spirit. The Stoics would call this protecting your inner citadel, the sacred core of your being that no external force should be allowed to breach. Carl Jung would recognize this as the essential withdrawal necessary for the process of individuation, the journey of becoming your whole, authentic self, separate from the expectations and demands of the collective. When you enact a sacred withdrawal, you are not just removing your physical body, you are revoking their access to your energy, your validation, and your predictable patterns of behavior. This forces the external world for the first time to confront the emptiness and dysfunction within its own cycles. You cease to be the fuel for their fire. It is a stunning act of self-preservation that shatters the illusion that you are indispensable to their drama, revealing that your true power lies not in your presence within their chaos, but in your sovereign ability to choose a dignified absence. 3. Psychic energy stewardship. My ladies, you must understand that your vital life force, your psychic energy, is your most precious and non-renewable resource. It is more valuable than any gold, any designer handbag, any worldly possession. It is the very fuel of your consciousness, your creativity, and your life. The psychologist Carl Jung defined this energy as the engine of the psyche, while the Stoics demanded a rigorous, almost ruthless guardianship of this inner fire against any and all frivolous expenditures. Every impulsive text message you send in anger, every reluctant yes to a request that violates your peace, every single minute you spend ruminating on someone who has proven themselves unworthy of your thoughts, these are not small lapses. These are acts of squandering your royal treasure. A feminine queen recognizes that feeling perpetually exhausted is not a sign of weakness. It is a critical sign of misdirection. It is proof that your priceless energy is flowing towards usurpers and thieves, not towards the construction of your own magnificent kingdom. You must become the most meticulous, discerning steward of this energy, investing your life force only in the people, pursuits, and purposes that are truly worthy of your throne. Remember, manipulators and energy vampires have a sixth sense for poorly guarded resources. Your unwavering discernment makes your kingdom impervious to their advances. 4. Uncompromising selectivity. The court of a true queen is by its very nature exclusive. Not everyone is granted an audience, and not everyone deserves a seat at your table. This principle transcends the modern, often flimsy concept of setting boundaries. This is a profound and fundamental realignment of your entire value system, based not on what others want from you, but on energetic resonance, mutual respect, and the preservation of your inner peace. As Carl Jung's work on the shadow self reveals, you will find that the people who protest your newfound selectivity the loudest are often those who mirror the very parts of yourself you have disowned through your past of chronic over-availability. The people-pleasing, the fear of being disliked, the need for external validation. The Stoics demanded that we judge things based on what is truly good for our soul, virtue, integrity, tranquility, and ruthlessly reject that which degrades it. A feminine queen understands a harsh but liberating truth. Perpetual availability breeds contempt, while a discerning presence earns true reverence. You must stop asking, "Who wants me?" and begin asking the far more powerful questions, "Who deserves the radiance of my being?" and "Whose absence actively fortifies my peace?" This, my queens, is the heart of royal discernment. 5. Sovereignty over reaction. This is the absolute bedrock of your inner kingdom, the ultimate command you hold over yourself. If you do not master this, everything else remains fragile. Carl Jung saw our automatic, unconscious reactions as a form of possession by our inner complexes, while the Stoics viewed it even more starkly, as slavery to external events and people. To be a feminine queen is to break these chains decisively. It means learning to observe your triggers, the subtle criticism from a colleague, the guilt trip from a family member, the calculated provocation from a partner, not as commands that you must obey, but as mere data points, as tests of your sovereignty. When the trigger appears, you do not leap to engage. Instead, you breathe. You create that sacred space. You allow your conscious, regal self to choose the response, which may very well be no response at all. This is not emotional suppression. It is the graceful and powerful exercise of your royal prerogative to remain unmoved by the chaos of others. You disarm manipulators not by fighting them with force, but by rendering their weapons useless with your unshakable poise, proving once and for all that your inner state is yours and yours alone to command. All right, feminine queens, thank you for being the heart of this incredible community. We wouldn't be here without your likes, comments, and shares. Keep that powerful energy flowing, and don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell, and share. I'll love you forever for it. 6. Shattering projections, shadow sovereignty. You must come to terms with a difficult truth. For most of your life, many people have not seen you. They have seen a convenient screen upon which they project their own unmet needs, their unresolved traumas, and their denied darkness, what Carl Jung called the projection of the shadow. Your chronic availability, your eagerness to please, and your role as the fixer made you the perfect blank canvas for their inner mess. The moment you become consciously unavailable, you are not just removing yourself, you are shattering the mirror. The Stoics taught that another person's opinion or judgment is their own burden to carry, not yours. When you withdraw your predictable emotional labor and your knee-jerk reactions, their projections have nowhere to land. They crumble to the ground, forcing them, often for the first time, to confront the very shadows they were placing upon you, their own neediness, their own manipulative tendencies, their own deep-seated emptiness, their resulting anger, their confusion, their desperate attempts to pull you back into the old dance. Understand this clearly, my queen. It is not about you changing, it is about the terror they feel as the mirror you held up to them collapses, forcing them to see their own reflection. You, meanwhile, stand serene, no longer a vessel for their dysfunction. 7. Silence as devastating presence. Let us deepen our understanding of your silence. The silence cultivated by a feminine queen is not an empty void. It is a profound, resonant fullness. It is an active state of being. Carl Jung understood that silence is the fertile ground from which the deepest truths of the unconscious can emerge. The Stoics saw a tranquil, silent mind as the very hallmark of wisdom and freedom. In a world that is screaming, clawing, and desperate for validation and attention, your deliberate, graceful silence becomes a throne room of almost devastating power. It completely disrupts the expected narrative. It exposes the flimsy architecture of manipulation. It commands a level of respect that shouting could never achieve, precisely because it refuses to engage on their frantic, undignified terms. Your silence becomes a luminous boundary, radiating an unspoken and undeniable message. You are not entitled to my energy. You are not entitled to my explanations. You are not entitled to my emotional turmoil. This strategic and sovereign silence forces others to sit in the deafening noise of their own unresolved selves. It is the ultimate regal statement, declaring that your worth is inherent and requires no justification, no defense, and no performance. 8. Soul-centered selection, beyond the mask. Every woman, at some point, has worn the mask Carl Jung called the persona. It is the mask of social adaptation, the carefully constructed self we present to the world to be accepted, liked, and approved of. For the woman who has been chronically available, this persona is often that of the endlessly capable, always smiling, accommodating good girl. The Stoics, however, urged us to live according to our true nature, not according to a mask forged by the expectations of others. This demands a ruthless and soul-centered honesty. It requires you to conduct an audit of your life, identifying the relationships, obligations, and commitments that are rooted not in genuine mutual respect, but in your conditioned habit of over-availability. The draining friend who only calls in a crisis, the transactional connection that offers no real nourishment, the family obligation you fulfill purely out of guilt, these must be examined. Releasing them is not an act of cruelty, it is the highest act of fidelity to your own soul. You must recognize that clinging to the mask of perpetual accessibility is a profound and ongoing betrayal of the authentic queen within. True, meaningful connection can only flourish in the sacred space created by your strategic absence from that which is false. You are no longer building a court on obligation, you are building it on authenticity. 9. The alchemy of sacred isolation. The initial act of withdrawal, of saying no, is the first step. But what it births is something deeper, something transformative, the alchemy of sacred isolation. This is your temenos, a term Carl Jung used for a sacred, protected space where the work of transformation can happen. It is the conscious creation of a chrysalis for your soul. The Stoics found immense strength and virtue in self-sufficiency, in the ability to find contentment within oneself. This period of isolation is not loneliness. Loneliness is the pain of being alone, while this sacred solitude is the profound joy of being reunited with yourself. Within this hallowed silence, your depleted energy begins to replenish. The fog of confusion, created by the constant noise of external demands, finally begins to lift, revealing stunning clarity. Here, in the profound peace of your own company, you begin to hear the whispers of your own soul, a voice that has been drowned out for years. It is in this forge of solitude that you will rebuild your identity, not as a reflection in the eyes of others, but from the unshakable, molten core of your own being. This is not an empty time, it is the most productive and essential work you will ever do. 10. Rebirth as the self-authored queen. The woman who emerges from this period of sacred isolation is not the same one who entered. This is not a return, it is a radiant rebirth. The process Carl Jung called individuation reaches its culmination, and the Stoic ideal of the sage who embodies inner freedom becomes your lived reality. You now stand as the feminine queen, wholly and completely self-authored. You have willingly traded the flimsy, temporary crown of external approval for the eternal, unassailable sovereignty of self-possession. The relationships that have survived this transformation are the ones that were always real, based on genuine resonance and respect, not on need or projection. Your peace is now your most fiercely guarded treasure. It is non-negotiable. Your energy is a precious resource, invested with wisdom. Your silence is a source of profound strength. You understand on a cellular level that your value is inherent and requires no performance, no audition, no proof through availability. The losses you may have incurred along the way are no longer viewed as tragedies, but as the necessary and sacred clearing of space, making way for the true kingdom that was waiting to be built. You are now the architect of your reality, ruling with grace from a throne established firmly within. Your very presence now commands reverence, for you have become the living, breathing embodiment of integrated, sovereign feminine power. This journey, from constant availability to sovereign selectivity, is the ultimate transformation. It's the art of gathering the scattered pieces of yourself and forging them into a crown. The Stoics and Carl Jung both understood. True withdrawal isn't about building walls, but about building a throne room within, where you rule with calm power and unshakable grace. Your power was never in being needed by everyone. The true power of a feminine queen lies in her right to choose where her presence is gifted. And sometimes your absence speaks more love than a presence born of exhaustion. This path isn't about being cold. It's about honoring yourself so deeply that you only engage from a place of fullness and truth. You can't serve from an empty cup. You serve from overflow. You are not here to be endlessly drained. You are here to reign wisely, with presence, peace, and discernment. So take a moment, reflect. What's one area of your life where you need a sacred withdrawal? One yes that your soul knows must become a steady, unapologetic no. That one choice, that one act of self-honoring, can begin your return to sovereignty. If this message stirred something in you, subscribe to the channel, tap the bell, and share this with a woman who needs it. Your presence here strengthens this sanctuary. Never forget, your power lies in your deliberate choice. Your throne awaits, my queen. Claim it. Every time you say no to what drains you, you say yes to the woman you're becoming. Your silence isn't empty. It echoes with your standards, your growth, and your rebirth. When you stop being available to chaos, peace finds its way to your doorstep.